The Cracked Egg's Adventure. Once upon a time, on the edge of a lush green village, there was a little farm. On this farm lived chickens, ducks, roosters, and many other animals together. And in one corner of the chicken coop on this farm, there was an egg that looked ordinary, but was actually not ordinary at all. This egg's name was Mino. Mino was a little different from the other eggs. There was a tiny crack on its shell. This crack did not harm him, but it filled him with fear. Every day, Mino would say to himself, "I am very close to breaking. If I fall, or if someone touches me too hard, I will shatter into pieces. So I must hide. I must never move, and I must never speak to anyone." The other eggs, however, would happily joke around and sleep safely under the hen's wings. But Mino always remained silent and chose loneliness. One day, one of the hens accidentally came too close to Mino and gently pushed him with her wing. Inside, Mino felt as if a storm had broken out. "Oh my God, my crack will grow. I will break any second now." But nothing happened. Only a tiny sound was heard. Tick. At that moment, Mino realized breaking was not as easy as he thought. Still, his fear did not go away. He promised himself, "I must be more careful. I will always stay in my corner." From inside the egg next to Mino came a faint voice. "Hey, Mino, why don't you ever smile? Talk with us." Mino answered timidly, "I have a crack. If I talk too much, if I laugh too much, or if I play, I will break." That voice replied with a smile, "But a crack might start your story. Maybe breaking is not as bad as you think." Mino did not understand these words, but for a moment his heart warmed. A few days passed. One night, a great storm struck the farm. The wind slammed the coop's door open. The hens panicked, and some eggs started rolling away. Since Mino was in the corner, he didn't move much. But the wind shook him as well. He trembled with fear. "This is the end. I am going to break now." Just then, another egg in the middle of the coop began rolling toward the outside with the wind. Mino forgot his fear and thought to himself, "If that egg goes outside, it will shatter. I must save it." But how could Mino help? Then, with courage, he gathered all his strength and began to roll. His little crack made ticking sounds, but Mino did not stop. He reached the egg rolling outside, touched it gently, and slowed it down. At that moment, one of the hens came and covered them both with her wings. At that moment, a tiny piece of Mino's crack opened wider. But this time, he was not afraid. On the contrary, a warm feeling rose from within him. I helped someone. The next morning, the storm calmed. The inside of the coop lit up quietly. The hens relaxed when they saw that all the eggs were safe. But Mino realized that his crack had grown even larger. He felt as if something like light was leaking out of him. The other eggs looked at him curiously. Mino thought to himself, "Maybe breaking is not something to be afraid of. Maybe the real me is behind the crack." And just then, the crack grew. A piece of the shell opened. From inside came a yellow, soft little wing. Mino heard his own voice in surprise. "Chirp?" Chirp. He was no longer an egg, but a tiny chick. Mino looked around and everything seemed brand new to him. The sunlight, the smell of hay, his mother's warm wings. It was all a completely different world. The other chicks hopped around him with joy. "Welcome, Mino." Mino smiled and said, "I was afraid of breaking. But breaking was my freedom, my life, my beginning." From that day on, whenever Mino was afraid of something, he remembered his own crack, because he now knew sometimes our fears are actually the key that opens the door to our journey.